So how can swimmers use strength training to get explosive off the starts, turns, in your strokes? Generally, how are we going to build explosiveness? We're going to get into all of that in this video. Now, this is going to be useful for people who are just getting into strength training for swimming, or for people that think you're more advanced, or you've been doing it for a much longer time. This is the fundamentals, and hopefully this video is going to help you iron out and figure out some areas that you might be lacking. And we're just going to go through the basics. But a lot of people get the basics wrong, or they completely miss some of the really fundamental stuff that really matters when you're trying to go fast. So here's what we're going to go through in this video. The first thing is the fundamentals of power. What is power? And by understanding what power is, we can start to put the puzzle pieces together and start figuring out what we've not been working on that's going to improve that power. Then once we've understood that, we're going to go into specific training methods. So there we're going to go into some general types of exercises that you can use to fill the gaps in your performance so that you can start building power. And then at the end, we're going to talk about how to actually schedule your training within the session and across the weeks and months so that you're getting the most effective workouts in to build that power without getting overly tired or doing too much of the wrong stuff or too much of the right stuff. So let's get into it. So let's talk about the strength speed continuum. Basically what this shows us or gives us an idea of is what types of activities might build or what require certain types of whatever level on the speed continuum you need to work on. So on this side, we've got like pure raw strength, and on this side we've got pure raw speed. Now on the strength side, all the way on this side, you've got things like powerlifting, because that is the whole point of powerlifting, is that you're trying to move the biggest weight possible, but that's going to be really slow. So what we have on this side is we have high force but low velocity. Velocity is basically how fast you can move something. If something is really a heavy weight, for example, you're not going to be able to move it very fast. So we have high force, low velocity. Then on the speed side, we have things that are super low force, very light weights, but moving them very, very quickly. So really good examples of like very, very high speed, high velocity, low force. So a good example of things that are really high velocity but low force are things, if you've seen like the Guinness World Records dude who does the most amount of skips, and he's just like brrrm, his feet are just like brrrm, moving really, really quickly, but it's pretty low force because he's just going brrrm, as quick as can. Or you see like the Guinness World Record of the most claps in a minute and the dude's just brrrm. That's really low force, high velocity. And those are the kind of things that you've got on this side of the speed continuum. So you've got low force, high velocity. Then this is where you kind of get fun and you get in the in-between parts. So if we think about like track sprinting, for example, that's obviously fairly high force, but also high velocity because you're trying to cycle your legs around as quickly as you possibly can, but you're also trying to put as much force into the floor as you can. So track sprinting is probably a little further to the speed side of things, but you still need relatively enough strength to actually put that force into the ground to launch yourself forward because you've got to move your whole body weight. And then back on the strength side, something that's not full strength, something that is a bit more powerful, but it still needs a lot of strength, could be something like rugby, where you still need to be fast, but you also need to be really strong, or things like hammer throws or shot puts. Those are good examples because you have to be strong enough to launch a heavy thing, but you're trying to launch it as fast as you possibly can. So let's just put shot put there. That's a good example. And then we come to swimming, which is like kind of in the middle. And it's going to be different for different events and stuff, but basically swimming is kind of like a power sport. You don't need to be ridiculously strong to be a good swimmer. You don't need to be ridiculously fast to be a good swimmer. So swimming lies somewhere in the middle because you need to be strong enough to move, hold that water and pull yourself through that body weight, but you also need to be fast enough to do that quickly. And obviously distance swimmers are going to be doing things slightly differently than sprinters, but most swimming is going to kind of live in this middle sort of area. Now, how do we actually develop that? And what people will tell you if they aren't into strength training or they don't do like much outside the pool, or they're the kind of people that just try to mimic what you're doing in the pool in your strength training, which doesn't work. It's because what you're getting right here is what you're already doing in the pool. And yes, to an extent, just doing the thing that you want to get better at is going to make you better at that thing. But just staying in this realm limits what you can actually do, because we see so much that doing a bit of strength training can massively help people improve their power. Doing speed training, really reactive stuff on land, for example, really contributes to what's going on in the middle here as well. And if we look at what power actually is, it is basically strength times speed. So if you want to get more powerful, you want to get more explosive, what you need to do is you need to either get faster or you need to get stronger. And doing either of those will improve your power and explosiveness. Now, which one of these you might want to focus on depends on your neurotype, and we'll get into that in a different series of videos. But let's keep things simple and basic. For most people, for most swimmers who don't have a proper strength training program, you have so much left that you can develop just by developing and doing tasks that are going to develop your speed and your rate of firing, and developing your strength over here. That's the more like, And what I think people waste too much time is trying to stay in the middle, trying to do things that are too specific to the speeds that you're doing in swimming. Now, no, trying to become the best possible powerlifter you can be, you know, going from like a 150 kg bench press to a 170 kg bench press isn't going to make you a better swimmer, probably. And no, being able to, I don't know, clap your hands as quickly as possible, if you can like do 10 more claps in a minute, doing those tiny bits extra there isn't going to probably affect your swimming. But if you are massively lacking in one area, working on that area and getting it from terrible to pretty good is going to make a massive difference to what happens in the middle. So for most people, what we want to do with actual training is we want to surf what we would call the strength speed curve. So basically what we have here, similar to what we talked about before, you got force on one angle, speed on the other, and basically what happens is here's what we talked about when we had the powerlifting. High force, but really slow. And then as you come down here, boom, this area here is things that are really fast, but very low force. And what's generally advised is to do stuff at all the different kind of sections along that strength curve to improve all of it, but mainly to improve power. But when we're in the weight room, the most important, like one of my things with the weight room is we want to do things that we're not getting in the pool. Because you're already filling this bucket in the pool, right? So in the weight room, what we want to do is we want to do things we can't get in the pool. And that's this stuff here and this stuff here. And yes, we do a little bit of stuff here, sometimes some weighted jumps and things like that. But generally, most of our time wants to be spent on the things that we're not getting in the pool. So what are these things? Let's get into the more training method part of the video. So like we said earlier, for the high force, low velocity stuff, to put it simply, lifting heavy weights. Now there's all different kinds of tempos that you can use for these things, but basically what we do is we have a variety of upper body strength exercises that we do and a variety of lower body strength exercises that we do. And again, you can go through other videos and we talk more about that. But this is basically the strength side of things. And for most swimmers, this is probably should be the priority. This is the thing that is probably least taken care of by other things. Most swimmers, just by getting a little bit stronger, completely open up what they can do in the pool. And because getting stronger is actually really quick and it's fairly easy to do it, it's this massive empty bucket that people have that is actually so easy to fill. So if you're not strength training, lifting some heavy weights, you don't need to do much of it to see a massive return on your investment, because it's going to open up everything else that you do in terms of power. If you're lifting with a full range of motion, it's going to help with your mobility because you're building strength at those end ranges. It's going to give you a sweet hormone boost as well. So it's going to help improve your recovery. And I don't need to go into all the benefits that just lifting some heavy weights does for you. You can go look that up into Google, benefits of lifting heavy weights. It's amazing for your health and you don't need a lot of it. So it's not going to take up a whole lot of your time. Now, the areas that people go wrong with heavy lifting is just doing too much of it. Again, we have this thing in the swimming world, and maybe in the world in general, that more is better. And if one set of something is good, then 2 sets of something is definitely better, that 10 sets of it is amazing. And that's not how it works, because I'm going to do another graph again. If this side is basically effectiveness of what a set is doing for you, and this side is fatigue, if we boil this down to like a certain muscle group, let's say we're doing a bench press, that first set, that first working set is going to give you this amount of effectiveness, and we're not very far along in fatigue. And this graph doesn't actually work because sometimes you can be less fatigued by doing the right amount, because it can actually wake you up and make you feel better and kickstart things. But for the sake of simplicity. And then if you add a second set, maybe it gives you a little bit more effectiveness, but also gives you a bit more fatigue. But it's still, maybe it's still worth doing that second set. But then you add a third set and you start getting to this thing where it starts to plateau, where you're not actually getting much of the benefits and you're just getting further along with how fatigued you are. And then eventually the sets go on, and you kind of hit this plateau and you get this point where things even start going downwards like that. And as a swimmer, this part here is what we want to avoid massively, because fatigue, you're already getting so much fatigue from what you're doing in the pool. If you're like swimming proper seriously, chances are swimming's beating you up quite a good amount. So with lifting, the real key is to be really minimalistic with it. You know, if you're specifically trying to build a ton of muscle without getting slow in the pool, watch one of our Jack Speed videos, because that becomes slightly different, but we're just talking about speed here. So the best part to focus on is these first couple of sets. You have enough intensity, enough intention with them to actually make you get stronger. It doesn't take that much to make you stronger, as long as you have the right focus and intention with them. And generally, I say get within 2 reps of failure. That's probably a good sweet spot. It's not going to absolutely destroy you, but you get a couple of sets within a couple of reps of failure. That's going to be enough of a stimulus to make you stronger and build strength in a way that isn't going to slow you down, burn you out, make you super sore, that you can't actually train properly in the pool. Those first couple of sets done properly can be like the ultimate supplement to what you're doing in the pool, because the pool still has to be the main thing, but this stuff is just filling out the base so that what you are doing in the pool can be so much better. And what people get carried away with is outside of the pool doing so much that they ruin what they're actually doing in the pool. So that's the main thing with strength training, is more is not better. You want to do just enough. So then the other side of the speed curve is the really fast stuff. Now this can be plyometrics. This can be sprinting. I don't mean sprinting on land, because that's going to be faster. You're going to have to move faster than what you're doing in the pool. This can be things like maximal effort med bull slams or med bull throws. Various things like that that are basically you trying to move as quickly as possible. Whether you're trying to move yourself as quickly as possible. Another example here could be rebounds, where you drop a weight, let it fall, and you catch it and bring it back as quickly as you possibly can. The goal there is to move like a blur, move as fast as you possibly can. And again, with these things, what usually ends up happening in most dryland programs is people will think, oh yeah, these are good for power. And what they'll do is they'll be like, okay, if I do 5 vertical jumps and that makes me more powerful and it helps me jump higher, then 50 vertical jumps is better, right? It's going to develop more power. And again, I'm not going to do another graph because I think you get the idea, but the more you do of something, the less effort, the less intense you can actually make it, and the more fatigued you're going to become. So what people should really be focusing more on, for the majority of people, is actually doing way less. Instead of doing 50 vertical jumps, instead of doing these, you know, like Les Mills side to side lunges, bouncing, where you're just like trying to get a sweat on and trying to get a burn, take like 5 minutes rest and do like 3 jumps as far as you can. And one way to make this better, and the same with the lifting, is to record stuff so that you actually know if you're actually getting better at that exercise. But it also drives your intention. If you know that, oh, last week in my triple jump, I jumped 20 meters. This week, you're not gonna just be like, oh, I'll jump, whatever. You're gonna go from having 95% intensity to 100% because you want to go that PB. You want to beat that 20 meters. You actually have a goal that's gonna push you to the end of your limit, which is what you need to do to actually improve this stuff. So recording things is incredibly important, and it means you can do so much less of it. So you're going to get less fatigued, you're going to have more intention, you're going to build more power in those fast things because you're doing less of it. So you have to like channel all of your energy because you know you don't have that much of it. And it's really hard to do this because a lot of that time is just resting and waiting around. And in the swim culture, that's almost seen as a bad thing, because if you're on the wall too long, it's like you're not developing something, you're not getting better. And that's fine maybe if you're like trying to improve like endurance or like a low level endurance. But for everything else that actually needs intensity, you have to protect your energy. You have to rest long enough, and you have to give a damn enough about that one set, and you have to have enough energy to give into that set that you can use that few sets to stimulate enough of a stress in that set to actually change. So those are my caveats for building strength and building the speed side. And I don't worry too much about the middle part. You know, moving medium weights kind of fast. I haven't seen as good results with trying to develop that middle side of the strength curve, especially with swimmers, because you're getting all that in the pool. So yes, let's take the extreme and make them extreme so they can actually develop all the way across. Now, how do you actually implement this? How do you start to schedule this in your training? And as I do with my videos, I'm going to give you somewhere to start, somewhere that's really simple to start. It's not going to be a completely comprehensive program. Can't do that in one video. If you want me to make things like really optimal for you and give you the best program the way that we do it, and you get education and advice and feedback and all that stuff in our community, then join a membership below. I'll give you all the workouts with video exercises, examples. We run it through our Train Heroic app that shows you exactly how many sets, reps, and use all the different methods we have in a progressive way that is going to build with you over time. So if you want me to take care of all of that, click the link in the description and get signed up. I'll see you in the memberships. If not, here's a really basic place to start that's going to be better than 99% of stuff that you've been doing. Now, how to structure an actual workout. I prefer for swimmers to go full body every session. That way you kind of balance the fatigue through your body. So for example, if you did just like a massive upper body day on Monday, then for the next 3 days, you're not going to be using your upper body as much in the pool. You're going to be using more of your lower body. And then you do like a massive lower body workout. Then your legs are going to be so sore that you're going to not be able to use your legs properly. And basically you use a technique that you wouldn't actually use when you're fresh. And what we want to do is we want to train how we're going to train when we race. Also, with a full body split, you can train things multiple times per week. You can see your progress more easily, and you can stay on the better side of fatigue because you know you're not doing too much one session and not enough the other session. Or if you're doing like a leg day, for example, you know that you're not overdoing your legs and underdoing everything else. So full body is just the best way to do this. So what I do, if you have no idea what you're doing, I would pick an upper body explosive exercise, a lower body explosive exercise. I would do these at the start of the session when you're fresh. Do a little warm up, use our neuro primer, do a few little warm up sets of these things, but you're going to start with the explosive stuff because that's going to take a higher strain on your nervous system. And because we're not doing too much of it, you're not going to overly fatigue yourself. It's actually going to wake you up and make your strength training that much better right afterwards because it's going to potentiate it. And generally what I would say for most people is to go 2 to 3 sessions per week. And you can do basically the same thing because you're doing so little of it that you can do it over and over again. So fit this in wherever it works for you. And what you're going to do is you're going to do one exercise that's an upper body explosive. Now that could be like med ball throws, med ball slams, could be altitude drops, could be rebounds, something upper body that's kind of fast, that's going to expose your upper body to just something fast so you get used to using that upper body. And then I would do something lower body. And it doesn't matter which of these you do first, you can go back and forth between them. And what I would say, once you're warmed up, of each of those 2 things, all you need 2 or 3 sets. Oh, for the lower body, it could be things like just a vertical jump, broad jumps, altitude drops, depth drop jumps, basic plyometric stuff. All you need is 2 or 3 sets of a set that's going to take roughly under 10 seconds. Now within that 10 seconds, it needs to be maximal effort. And 10 seconds is actually probably quite long for depending on the exercise. For example, if you're sprinting on land, running for 10 seconds like running 100 meters, that's actually quite a lot and that's going to knock you out. So for certain things, it might be you want to go for 3 to 5 seconds. But if you're doing med ball slams, for example, you're not actually working that whole time. So 10 seconds is just a rough idea, but the point is that it's maximal, that it is moving that thing as fast as you possibly can. 2 or 3 sets, that's all it takes. Make sure you're resting plenty in between this. I would say at least 1 or 2 minutes between each of these things that you're doing so that you can reset yourself even just mentally and physically. You can restore everything and go into each thing with maximal intent. Then, very simply, you're going to pick a lower body exercise. Now that lower body exercise could be a squat or a hinge of some sort, single leg, double leg, up to you. Maybe just pick something you like, something you're comfortable with. In our memberships, we vary the exercise that we're doing every once in a while, every few weeks. We don't change all the exercises all the time. Depending on your neurotype, some neurotypes are going to want more variation in their exercises. Some are going to want less. So depending on what program you are, what neurotype you are, this is going to be different. But basically just pick a lower body strength exercise. And let's not worry about reps and stuff, because the important part here is that you're lifting something heavy enough that is challenging. And like I said before, you want to get about 2 reps away from failure. So if you're doing a squat, for example, let's say you're doing 5 reps. As you finish that 5th rep, you want to come up and it should be challenging to get it up, but you're not like collapsing under the weight or anything. That last rep should be starting to slow down and it should be a bit of a struggle, but in your head you're thinking, if I had a gun to my head, I could potentially do 2 more reps. And that's where you're going to leave it. And again, all you need to do here is like 1 or 2 sets where you're leaving 2 reps in reserve. That's what RIR means. And then all you're going to do is you're going to do basically the same for an upper body strength exercise. What I like to do with upper body is within a session to have a push and then a pull. So we're balancing out front and back. So you know your back isn't overdone and your front isn't overdone. We get a bit of balance between those sides. So you've got an upper body and then you've got another upper body strength exercise. And one of them's a pull, could be pull-ups, rows, something like that. And one of them's a push. And that could be push-ups, bench press, dips, overhead press, landmine press, something like that. And what I would recommend is you do these one at a time in the beginning. Partly because it's just easier in the gym to just find an area. Because if you're going back and forth between exercises, doing like superset kind of stuff, if the gym's busy, you're kind of screwed. But also because switching between exercises is a bigger demand neurologically, so it can actually make you more tired without actually getting more benefits apart from like saving time. So do these one at a time. Do 1 or 2 warm-up sets where you're just building up to that weight that you're going to use for the main set. And then, yeah, 1 or 2 sets, rest as long as you need to make each set challenging, but with a really good focus and intensity. And that's a great start. That's all you need. A workout like that might take you like 30 minutes, including warm up and everything. You're in and out of the gym pretty quick, and you've fed your body some of the stuff that it hasn't had from the pool work that you're doing. And it should leave you, once you get used to this kind of stuff, in our memberships, people are saying usually for the first month or 2, they're feeling a bit sore, but kind of like weirdly activated as well. And then they start feeling better between kind of month 2 and 3. But then when we get these really amazing testimonials from people on the memberships, it's when they've been doing the stuff for between 3 and 6 months is when things start getting going. And after 6 months is usually when we get the crazy, like, oh my God, I didn't think I could do this kind of stuff. So the real key here is consistency. Don't try and like win all the money at the casino in one workout. You know, take your little win and bank them up over time. So really my main thing with the scheduling side of things, 2 or 3 sessions a week, you've got your upper explosive, lower strength. With the lower strength, I would mix in hinges and squats throughout the weeks, throughout the sessions, maybe alternate them each session so you're getting a bit of both. And then an upper pull, an upper push on the strength side of things. That's a really simple, solid workout, as long as the focus and intensity is there. But the main thing with this is put it into your program in a way that you're actually gonna stick to it. You know, if you pick to join like a really fancy gym that takes like 45 minutes to get there and it's like not close to the pool or anything, on those bad days, you're just gonna skip and then you're gonna get into the habit of not going. So that's why these sessions, I like to keep them really short, because it's something that is easy to do even on a bad day. You're gonna be able to turn up, get it done, put that money in the bank, and then it just becomes a part of your routine. And then before you know it, you look back at 6 months and you're like, oh, damn, I've actually done like almost 100 workouts. And if you've done 100 decent 6 or 7 out of 10 workouts, you're gonna feel so much better. You're gonna be so much stronger. You'll notice that your numbers on those lifts have gone way, way up. Your distances or your heights on those jumps have gone so much higher. But it didn't all happen in one workout, right? It was just turning up and doing it consistently. And that's the real key with this extra, with the supplemental stuff outside of the pool, because chances are you're gonna be doing it on your own. Do it in a way where you're actually going to enjoy it. And that's why in our memberships, we have the Train Heroic app, because it gives you something, it gives you a way to actually enjoy the workouts a bit more when you're doing this stuff alone, because it records what you did last time. And when you're striving to go a PB in the next week, it'll show you a PB. And then that's why we have our community as well. So everyone shares their PBs, which people are doing almost every week. You have people to come to ask questions. If you have a certain circumstance, maybe you just want to share, hey guys, I turned up today even though I didn't want to. And then we'll get in there and we'll support the hell out of you. And that's honestly one of the biggest things about the Swim Strength membership, is that it just holds you accountable. It keeps you coming back, which is what is the most important thing with this stuff. Yes, I designed the workouts so that they're fun and engaging and that you can actually develop them over time, and that you're getting enough variation to actually be engaged in the workouts while still making consistent progress. But the real key is that it makes it so much easier to stick to. So yeah, if you're doing this on your own, make sure you do it in a way that is going to be a habit that's easy for you to keep turning up over and over again. So if you're interested in the membership, go to the link in bio and sign up and we'll get you started. If not, hit the subscribe button and check out some of the other videos. I'm going to be talking everything strength training for swimming. Cheers guys.